I had an interesting thought this morning, or at least I thought it was interesting. I was thinking about my watch collection. I was thinking specifically about why some watches stay long term or even forever, why other watches stay in my collection long term but then I don't end up wearing them that often, and why others tend to rotate and get sold within periods of time. And then I realised that thinking about the way that I collect watches and why certain watches are in my collection are very similar to locations in the world, destinations and even countries. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches, and I have no doubt that you're thinking, what is he on about? This guy overthinks things, he talks about watches too often, and how is a watch like a country? Or how is a watch like a location within a country? And I want to explain because I think this is actually quite a good analogy, especially for me, my watches and my collecting. And the third part about this, the watches that come and go, it's actually the most interesting part of this whole analogy too. So let me think about and talk about the watches that stay in my collection. There's two reasons why watches stay in my collection long term. Firstly, I have an emotional connection to them. There's something that has to do with that particular watch that means that I will never sell it. Even if I never wore it again, I would never sell it because it means so much to me. The other watches in this section of my collection are watches that I just love so much and wear all the time that I wouldn't sell them because I love them so much and I wear them all the time. And for me, if I was thinking about this sort of idea that I'm thinking, this is very similar to where I live. Not just Australia, but the state within Australia that I live. This is where I'm from, this is where my friends and family are, this is where my job is, this is where my base is, and I love living here. I have an emotional connection to this location. Nowadays, you can almost live anywhere in the world, but I keep coming back here as my home base because it means something to me and I really like it. I like being here. Just like that first section of watches. I've got emotional connections to the area, to the people, and I just like being here and being a part of it. So that is sort of like that first part of the collection. Then there's that second part of the collection, which I think is really interesting. These are watches that aren't going anywhere in my collection, and I keep coming back to them. They're watches that perhaps may sit there for a few months unworn, but then when I go back to them, I then wear them and then I remember again how much I love these watches. I may even have some new experiences with these watches. And for me, this is like locations around the world that I keep going back to. Sometimes I might be visiting family, sometimes it might be a holiday destination that I just particularly like and that I just keep returning to. It's not somewhere where I want to live specifically, but it's something that I like to go back to. I like to get back there, enjoy that area again, and even discover new things. Just like these sort of watches. Watches that I'm not there all the time, or I'm not wearing them all the time, but I enjoy them occasionally, and I even rediscover them when I wear them again. Just like those locations. But the third part of this, the third part of my collection is probably the most main reason why I'm even having this sort of thought and why I'm even making a video like this. It's about those watches in my collection that I buy and then they don't always stay long term. Now I'm perfectly okay selling watches. I don't ever sell one that I'm currently wearing or that I love. I sell watches when I'm ready to sell them, but I'm okay selling them. I don't go into the idea of buying it with that thought. I don't think, okay, I'm definitely going to sell this watch as soon as I've bought it, but I then go and sell it when I've had my time with it, when I've experienced it, when I've loved it, I've worn it, and I let it go, and then I have some really nice memories of that watch. But I don't feel that I have to then go back and buy that watch again. And this to me, again, is like a holiday destination for me. It's places that I've been around the world that I've really been excited about going to. I've really enjoyed my time there. I've loved it, I've experienced it. And when I've left, I've been left with these great memories of that location, but no real requirement to go back to that location. I'm very glad that I've gone to these places around the world. I've experienced it and I'm really glad that I have these memories, but I don't feel that I need to go back there straight away. I'll certainly maybe not even go back there at all, just like these watches. And when I put this sort of into perspective in this sort of frame, it makes it feel a little bit better selling these watches, because occasionally I feel a little bit guilty about selling these watches. Not that I'm unhappy about selling them, not that I'm not ready to sell them, but sometimes I feel a little bit guilty because when I've bought that watch, I've bought it with the idea I'm going to keep this forever, but then I've ended up selling it. And if I think about it like a holiday destination, something that I've really looked forward to for years perhaps, going to when I've really enjoyed being there, but then when I've left, I've gone, oh, I've experienced that, I loved it, I've got great memories of it, but I'm then going to go somewhere else on my next holiday. Just like these watches, I'm then going to sell that one to go on to that next watch. So, yeah, interesting thought, or at least I thought it was interesting. I have no doubt that some of you are going to be thinking that I'm a little bit strange, and that's perfectly okay. I do tend to overthink watches sometimes, but I just like this analogy, especially that last part of I've experienced it, I've loved it, I've got these memories of it. I can then move on to somewhere else. These watches I've bought, I've enjoyed, I've worn, I've then sold, and then I've moved on to another watch. I like it. Maybe check out a couple of these videos next.